Well, you've heard a little bit by both the law enforcement and the private sector perspective on exploiting social media. We thought pretty early in the program, not all of us in here are equally adept in this environment. And it might be a good idea to do social media 101. And to do that, we're very privileged to have Chris Vera, who's one of our board advisors, also works for Sempra Energy, information security specialist extraordinaire. Again, his bio is in the some sort of a funky picture that roughly looks like Chris, but I think that's probably what he uses on social media to keep himself anonymous. Anyway, Chris is going to talk a little bit about what is social media and what some of the impacts are before we go into the applications later in the day. So without further ado, Chris.
Thank you very much, Bruce. Hello, everybody. Welcome. What a fantastic venue we've got today. So thank you very much for having me out. My name is Chris Vera. I am from SDG&E, and I am the lead security architect for the company. I'm also very involved in their privacy efforts. I'm a very big advocate of privacy. It's a big deal to me, and it's one of my jobs in the company to kind of help push them forward on making it a priority as well. However, today, I'm not a security professional. Today, I'm going to speak to you as a salesman. I want to try to convince some of you who may be still, we've heard a lot of bad things about social media and how it impacts us. Let's talk about how we might be able to use it, how it might be able to serve us in the future, or right now for that matter. So before I go on, I'm going to make a disclaimer, of course, and I'm going to do it in traditional Twitter format there, that my comments are my own, and I've got a nice little hashtag there that doesn't reflect my company, and my hashtag is CYA. We'll talk a little bit about what that means in a minute. So, I don't know if you guys were aware of this yet or not, but we've actually got a little hashtag for. So for some fun, right now, if you guys have a smart device and a Twitter account in your possession at this moment, get on up there right now and tweet a little something just to say hi, just to let other people know that you're present in there. I don't mind watching people doing the little smart device thing while I'm talking. That's okay. San Diego, critical sector, social media. I actually went out and researched to make sure no one else was using it for some other event, and they're not. It's all ours. Grab it, and please use it. Want to see people tweeting today. If we could get to trending, that'd be awesome, but we'll see. We'll see how that goes, right? So let's do some perspectives on social media from the points of view of different user groups, right? So the average person, maybe this is what social media looks like to you, right, when you think about it, right? And I can understand that. Interestingly enough, though, all the people in this picture, this is what they think social media is to them right now. We're together and we're having dialogue, we're having discussions, and we're speaking together. Okay, that's definitely a perspective as well. Here's my perspective. It's very entertaining, has a lot of hocus pocus in it, but every once in a while, something amazing happens that you just can't explain, right? That's social media to me. Now, if you're in law enforcement, I can appreciate that maybe this is what social media looks like to you, right? With all the demonstrations and things that are going on. But every once in a while, right, social media can be used as a tool to help effect change around the world. So it's a very powerful tool if it's used in an appropriate way. And that's very important, I think. That's something that we all need to be looking at, and that's why we need to be a part of it. So why are we avoiding social media, right? I absolutely know all the arguments, right? Privacy, there's a lot of huge privacy concerns around social media. We talk a lot about that. You'll hear more about that today, I'm sure. Of course, there's the security concerns. We've got to be careful. It's a great venue for getting malware. We're definitely trying to tell folks all about that. But Chris, you're a security professional. You're a privacy professional. At least that's what you've said. Why are you doing social media? What's in it for you? Well, here's what I tell people that ask me that question. If we can't understand it, if we don't understand it, how are we possibly going to teach others that they need to, what things they need to do to protect themselves? It's incumbent upon all of us to understand these technologies to some degree so that we can communicate the right things to do to those that are coming after us. Right? It's a very important point. I went out to give you a great definition of social media, and I went out to the crowdsourced social media tool Wikipedia, and I got this massive, gigantic, very difficult explanation of what social media is. I don't get it, so I'm not going to spend a lot of time on that, right? What are you talking about? What really is social media in this case? Here's a really nice way to look at it. It's a bunch of technologies that enable us to do a lot of cool things. I'll give you a great example with that one at the top on news. Show of hands, how many of you learned about Junior Seau's death on social media? I was on Twitter myself. There's a good portion of you that did. I was on Twitter, and suddenly I saw Junior Seau RIP. I was like, whoa, what happened, right? And then after I got that social media communication, then I went to the television. That's kind of the paradigm shift, right, that we're seeing now. It used to be that we got a lot of news through the television. Now it's kind of shifting over to the social media concern. I think that's really interesting. But it's really all about community at the end of the day. That's an important cultural point to take away, is that it's this idea that you've got this community of people that are working together. You have these conversations that are going on. There's a lot of collaboration that's taking place. And it's really fundamentally all about communicating with other people. The interesting part about that is, used to be all this communication was based on geography, but not really anymore. It's really more now about a common interest. Right? I don't know, in my bio, if you dare, take a look at that picture. But in that bio, I actually do a little bit of poetry in there. One of my biggest fans is some young kid in the Philippines. I've never met him, have no clue who he is, but he tweets me every day to say hi and let me know that he read another poem in my book. That's fascinating to me, right? That social media allows that to occur in a way with people that before would have never had that opportunity to communicate in such a way. So I started building out this little history here. Friendster came out in 2002, MySpace in 2003, and the first tweet was sent out in March 2006, not particularly inspiring, of course, and then I got to thinking, boy, you know, building this topic on the history of social media is really kind of boring, so you guys can Google that if you're really interested in the history of social media. Let's move on to what the landscape looks like. This huge flower petal represents the latest version, and most of these things are out of date by the time they're printed, of all the different types of social media categories that are out there. Every one of the petals on that flower represents a different type of tool or tool set that can be used that's been categorized by some professionals. Everything from blogs to crowdsourcing tools to microblogs like Twitter and things of that nature. It just really runs the gambit of the different types of things that are available. And it gets so big, there are so many tools, they actually do it by country now. This is Germany's. The United States has its own. The Asian countries have their own. I mean, it's just huge in terms of the type of things in there. That's a lot to try to digest. So I broke down few of the major categories that we see here. Some examples of some blogs. Blogs are very handy for posting large amounts of information that you want to make available to others. And the micromedia, things like Twitter and status.net, should be pretty familiar to most of the folks in this room. Forums, that's one I wanted to point out. Forums are still a big one that are around. Forums are still a great way for people to communicate information and trade ideas, normally on problems or issues that they're having. So we still see a lot of that going on around there. Video, of course, is becoming huge in the social media world. And I'm terribly unphotogenic, so if this is being videotaped, I want to see it before it goes on YouTube. But that's definitely something that's coming up, and it's very important as well. The location-based services are a huge one in terms of here I am and here's what I'm doing type of thing. That's really coming up. And Pinterest. I've actually been taking a look at Pinterest myself and seeing what it's about, mostly because my wife hates social media, and I'm trying to figure out how to get her engaged. And Pinterest seems to have been the perfect tool for that. So one of the things that I wanted to show you here, and here's another slide that gets very quickly out of date. Most of the lion's share of sharing, so to speak, get it, is this Facebook and Twitter, and email is still a big one in there. Google Plus is also starting to come up there in terms of its value. But the reason why I wanted to show you this is you can kind of see how all these different social media tools are out there. Most of them don't have a very big market share. There's very few that have a substantial one. By the way, did you guys know that Facebook is hitting 900 million users? Think about that for 1 second, right? They're not far away from having 1 billion. That means 1 out of every 7 people on the planet is going to have a Facebook account. That's mind-boggling to me, that type of interconnectivity. That's huge. I found this on the internet. I don't know the name of the person, so I couldn't give him credit for it. I apologize to whoever it is that came up with this. I modified it a little bit. But this is a great way to kind of break out the different if you don't know what Twitter is, well, there it is. That's a great example of how to use it. I'm eating a hashtag donut, right? Facebook, I like donuts, right? That's kind of a popular way of looking at it. The Foursquare one, this is where I eat donuts, right? That's how Foursquare is used. Instagram, one of my favorite applications, right? Facebook is actually buying that tool. I think they're buying it for like $1 billion or something. Here's a vintage photo of my donut. YouTube, watch me eating a donut. I added Pinterest down there. Oh, here's a donut recipe. Look at those pretty shoes, right? It's very distracting. I got that from my wife, actually. I'm going to give her credit for that one. And this joke here around Google Plus at the bottom. I'm a Google employee who likes donuts. That actually is... it's fun, but really Google Plus is actually they're adding about 650,000 users a day is how many that Google's adding. So by the end of this year, they're going to be up around 500 million. So, they're going to be a force to be reckoned with too. And we have to be aware of that and be cognizant of how these tools are coming into play so that we can participate in these to help communicate our own emergency response messages. Here's a bunch of things in 60 seconds. This is a very pretty slide. I won't go into all the details on each one of those, but you can just kind of get an idea on some of these as to how many tweets are being tweeted and how many blog posts are being done. That one up in the corner, the tweets, 98,000 tweets in 60 seconds. It's a lot of information that's being communicated. The video, we're sending video like mad to YouTube and other places like that. That's a lot of information that we're collecting. Here's another view of that in 10-second bursts, which is a little bit easier to digest. So like 17,000 tweets in 10 seconds. Where's the one for, there it is, 1,200 minutes of video calls on Skype. And you can just get, that should give you a really good idea of just how much of this information is being communicated. This is in 10 seconds, every 10 seconds. In the time it took me to present this slide to you, all this stuff has happened, right? That's a lot of information. Here's some demographics, and I won't go into every single one of these, but if you look across at the various tools, Bebo there and MySpace, etc., down at the very bottom is classmates.com. At the very top are the younger generation on average for the tool, and at the very bottom is where the older generation is using it. So people say, well, older folks really don't use social media. What really comes out to me here, they do on classmates.com. Right, look at over 60% of the people that use classmates.com are over the age of 45. So interesting, right? And you can kind of intuit why, right? Well, I want to go find my old class. I haven't seen such and such in years. I want to go reach out and see where they're at. But potential tool to reach an audience. We can't just assume that because they're over a certain age that there's no way they're on social media. All right, so why social media? There's a website, and I'll give you the website towards the end of this presentation, from Kim Stevens, iDisaster 2.0. Definitely a great website, a blog, I should say, to go check out. And she says that really it's about message duplication, amplification, and redundancy. That's why we want to communicate using social media. In emergency response, just as in any other marketing program, we want to get the right message to the right people at the right time. This is a tool that's going to help us do that. Very important. Here's a few metrics I wanted you to see that might get you into it. So 96% of those young folks are on some kind of social media network. 96%. The other 4% are probably just in, out in the Sierra Nevadas somewhere and can't get an internet connection. Or otherwise they'd probably be on it too. 80% of Twitter use is via a mobile device. That's an interesting metric that we're going to come back to in just a minute. Something that I find very fascinating in terms, and in fact, when I think about it, that's how I do most of my tweeting. I can't remember the last time I logged into Twitter from, a desktop computer. I don't even remember. 40% of young folks find out their news through Facebook. I don't think that would surprise most of anyone, but here's an interesting message if you want to reach out to young people, especially on Facebook. 48% check Facebook right when they wake up, but here's the real big one. 28% of these young folks are checking Facebook before they get out of bed. I wake up, I go and grab my smartphone, and I check Facebook. That's great for emergency responders, right? If something is happening in the middle of the night, we can pretty much say that a third of the generation here, of the 18 to 34-year-olds, are going to get that message right when they wake up. That's good, because you know, they're not necessarily turning on the television set. Very handy to know that. The American Red Cross does a survey every year, and in 2011 they did it specifically. They poll people, they poll about 1,000 or 2,000 people a year on what are their views on social media as it relates to incident response, to emergency type response things. Not surprisingly, the average, you know, the folks they polled, television's still number one in terms of how they get their news, radio right after, the internet is third, with 18% of that coming from Facebook alone. The more interesting metric here is that a lot of folks, we talk about the whole Big Brother aspect of it, and yet, in terms of the government monitoring social media, and yet 80% of these respondents here in the survey believe that the government should be monitoring. So they're expecting us to be monitoring social media in the event that something bad happens. Now, here's the real killer metric for me. This one really gets me interested. 40% of those folks believe that if I do post an emergency on Facebook, I expect help to arrive in an hour. Really? I mean, that's an interesting metric from an incident responder, right? Is that you're actually not only expecting us to monitor Facebook, but and these other social media tools, but you're expecting that we're actually going to come out and help you within an hour if you post, "Come and help me, I'm in trouble." That's an interesting take on things that we as emergency responders need to pay close attention to. Sounds odd, but if we take, oops, sorry about that. In Anaheim, they're doing just that. The Anaheim CERT is actually going to begin monitoring social media, following a process that looks like this one, and basically doing a triage on those communications. Is it an urgent thing? Is this something that we need to react to quickly? And they've got a little process for how they're going to confirm, verify, et cetera, that this is really an issue. How do we find the person that made the post, and then how do we go reach out to them? Versus, is it just a question? You know, are you just asking me how to build a disaster recovery kit or an emergency preparedness kit or something? There's a different process for that. So my question for this group in here, especially the folks from San Diego, are we doing something like this? And if not, why not? Why not do that ourselves? Why let Anaheim get all the credit? We should be in this race too, and we should be also helping make sure that we're prepared to respond to San Diegans that may need some help. Here's a little refresher on compound interest, right? You have this principle. Invest a certain amount of money, and then with compound interest, you can have a whole lot more money if you're patient enough and don't pull out of the market too soon. Let's translate that now into social media. Traditionally, before social media, this is what a communication would look like, right? Someone says something, they communicate with their few friends, and those few friends then talk with their few friends, and that's how word of mouth spreads. It's a little bit different with social media, right? So with social media, it's actually a little asynchronous, in that in this diagram, it shows it to be very, you communicate a message via these delivery channels, and then those 6 friends talk with their 12 friends, et cetera, et cetera. But depending on who your friends are, they may have a lot more followers than just 6, right? So you can really get a message out very quickly using this type of a paradigm. And this is the direction that we have to participate in if we're going to communicate messages properly. Here's the difference, is that compound interest that social media generates happens in seconds or minutes, right? It's not happening over the years that regular compound interest works in. That's both its greatest strength and its greatest weakness, because there's a lot of noise. There's going to be a whole lot of junk that we have to filter out to get our message heard and to generate that dialogue and get a communication back from the people that we need to hear back from. It also makes it difficult for rumors, right? It's easy for the wildfire to spread and for all the misinformation to get out there, and it might take some time to correct. In fact, I would argue that's probably the most important reason for us to be on social media. When those rumors start spreading, we need to get out in front of it and be sure that we're communicating the right information to the people that we care about, right? Our citizens, our customers, our however you define your client group. So we can't boil the whole ocean in the time that I've got, or Bruce is going to pull me off. He swore he's going to tackle me if I take too long. So let's just concentrate on Twitter and Facebook. Here's some Twitter concepts, pretty straightforward. The hashtag, the most powerful part of Twitter is this hashtag. And really all it is a way of categorizing a tweet. So if I create a hashtag and I put that in my thing, like you saw in my initial one, right? I had the hashtag CYA. What that allows me to do then is do a search on that hashtag CYA and see all the tweets where other people have tweeted #CYA, #CYA into their communication, and then I can really just follow those tweets. That's why I gave you that tweet for the San Diego critical sector social media tag, right? You can now follow that hashtag and see all the tweets that all of your patriots here, compatriots here, are also tweeting about that. So that's a very powerful tool. The really cool thing about that is that very popular hashtags will start trending. So you can actually see them on the home page of Twitter when you first log in and you're looking at the content. Very useful, right? In this case, you can see what was trending. How to make people mad. Well, okay, that's cute. But you know, when the Japanese disaster struck, they had the big tsunami and the earthquake there. Japan was actually trending on Twitter. So it's a great way to kind of follow the news and see what the buzz is. Another useful tool is the @ sign, right? The @ sign is how you denote an account on Twitter. @Christopher Vera, that's me, that's my account on Twitter. Please feel free to follow me if you wish. It's more, though, than just being able to use it to find someone. It's a great way to communicate with someone who's not a follower. So I can send a tweet to @FEMA, for example, and they would get that tweet even though they don't follow me, and then they'd be able to tell that I was communicating with them. So that's a very powerful way of sending a message. Everyone else can still see that message, but it's direct, it kind of lands in Twitter's feed so that they can see it too. That gets others involved, and the whole purpose of that is to try to get your tweets retweeted. Retweeted? What does that mean? Why would I care about having something retweeted? That's the whole idea of getting other people to forward your message for you. Why would that be important? Let me give you some examples. Ready San Diego, I went. As of last week, they had about 6,000 followers. That's not bad. That's actually pretty good for the average Twitter account, which has about 200 followers. I don't even make the average. So that's a respectable amount of people following Ready San Diego so they can deliver timely messages. FEMA's doing a little bit better. FEMA's got 107,000 followers. They're a little bit stingy. They don't follow as many people. But still, they're able to communicate a message to a much wider audience. And then, of course, if I follow FEMA, I can then retweet that to people that follow me so that they can also see what's going on. But there's someone else that has even more followers, right? Where's Dr. Eric Frost? This is for you. This is for you, brother. Dr. Frost is a huge fan of Lady Gaga, mostly because she's a big tweeter. Look at this. Almost 24 million followers. So what does that tell incident responders then, right? What it says is if there's a global disaster that strikes, Lady Gaga has more reach than all of us combined, right? Can you just imagine a meteor coming towards the planet Earth and the aid rushes into the president's office? Well, there's this meteor attacking. We've got to do something. Get me Lady Gaga, because she'll get the message out fast, right? So that's the power then. That's the asynchronous power of if you have the right friends that are willing to retweet you, the right followers that are willing to retweet you, is a very powerful asynchronous way of getting a message out. Lady Gaga has never retweeted me. I'm working on it. And so now here's the part. We talked about the bad part of geotagging, right? Early in our earlier presentations, where we had this whole idea of, the geotag data is tagged to your communications, especially your pictures that you send out. Bing has this great little tool that geotags all of these things. I took one from Bro Wolf Jesus, not his real name. And he basically, what he did is he was at Otay Lake, I can see based on the geolocation of his tweet, and he took a picture of a fish that his son caught, which is very cool, right? How can emergency responders use this? Here's a suspicious package I just see on the side of this building. I'm going to take a picture of it and geotag it. If you're following the right tweet string, you should be able then to see that. Innocent responders can now use that information. Can you imagine how we could have used this in the wildfires? A few years ago, that would have been an awesome tool to find out potential problem areas and where we needed to have help. Very powerful tool that we should be exploiting. Related, Google's doing the same kind of thing. It's kind of in a beta test, so to speak. They're doing some public alerts as well, on more of a grand scale, of course. All right, Facebook. Facebook is pretty straightforward. You can like stuff, and when you like things, that lets people know you're interested, and it also reveals popular posts. You can share things. Sharing is like a retweeting. It shares it with the rest of the people, your friends and followers, and your Facebook account. But the real power of Facebook is in that dialogue. And here's an example that actually came from the Queensland Police Service over in England. They had a flood last year. And so they set up a Facebook page and they started sharing that information. One of the things that they said was, here's a bunch of neighborhoods that are going to be getting water and ice. One of the followers that was following the page said, hey, what about Cardwell? What about us too? And so Queensland was able to see, are you saying that Cardwell needs water? An SES, which I presume is some kind of emergency service person, following that page too, said, oh yeah, we were over there and we saw that they needed water on Saturday. And so we sent that message up the chain. We just assumed that something was done about it. So Queensland sent out some cops to go check it out, make sure everything was okay. They reported back and updated their website with information on here's the latest and greatest as it relates to Cardwell on water and ice. And here's the beautiful part of it. Then they went back to the person that posted, hey, did that answer your question? Are you okay? Is everything all right? Look at that kind of power that they were able to leverage from that, from a Facebook page. This isn't your mom's social media anymore, right? This is something that you can really use to do some powerful things from a law enforcement, from an emergency response perspective. Our director of FEMA actually said the government has to change mentality, love it or hate it. You have to adapt to us. He actually said we need to adapt to them, but I really don't like that whole us and them thing, right? What he meant is we need to adapt to our citizens because they're the ones who are using these tools. And I agree. I think that's right on. So what's next? Get involved. Figure out how the tools work. Most importantly, learn the culture. If you don't understand the culture of these tools, the people using those tools will be less likely to treat you with the respect that you deserve on there. Figure out your own organization's social media, what they're doing in regards to that. And if they're not doing something, why don't you help them get it started? It doesn't have to be a big complex plan. Just start with a Twitter account. It could be as simple as that. And if you need more information, here are some fantastic tools that I found while I was researching for this. You can, on Twitter, if you follow the I believe that stands for Social Media for Emergency Management, a very powerful organization that's run by the Social Media for Emergency Management.org. Google has some crisis response stuff there. idisaster.wordpress.com. Fantastic. These folks really get the whole idea of social media and using that for some popular, using that for emergency response use. And if I still haven't sold you, I've been asked to back this one up. I'm sure this will be available after the conference. So if you don't feel like you have to write all these down now, I'll tweet you later. So if I haven't sold you yet on why you should be involved in social media, here's the most important post that you could either send or receive while an incident's going on, right? How could you... Landlines are down, you can't get in touch with your loved ones, but for some reason, Twitter's still up and running, right? They could send this tweet, takes just a little bit of data, not using up too much bandwidth, but you know that everything is okay, at least for the moment, right? That could be the most important tweet you get in any incident. I was looking for one from the Japanese incident, but they were all in Japanese, and I didn't think it would translate well. Any questions? We've got a dry mic.
If there were just one or two types of social media that you'd recommend we join, if we haven't joined already, would it be Twitter and Facebook? If we're trying to get the most bang for our buck for our companies or our organizations?
Yeah, I think that right now, just because of the market share and the popularity of those tools, Twitter and Facebook are probably the two big ones. You might want to explore with Google+, but I think their purpose for social media is a little bit different rather than the way Facebook and Twitter are using it. That's what I would start with, is Twitter and Facebook. And keep in mind, if you want to protect your privacy, you don't always have to tell the truth to Facebook, right? You know, they think I live in Honduras and they think I was born in 1972. All lies, right? Doesn't matter. They don't need to know that because my friends know my real birthday. But those are great tools to get started with to learn the tools and the culture. Anyone else? Yes, sir.
I'm not going to stand up. Is it important to follow, say, the Lady Gagas of the world, certain people and celebrities who just have so many followers that maybe you want to find out what they are saying or what they might retweet?
That's a fantastic question, actually. So in terms of the kind of people you want to follow, spread it out a little bit. What I found is that, and I'll give Lady Gaga, people, every time she tweets, she gets like thousands of replies back, right, from her devoted fans that say things. I follow her mostly because Dr. Eric Frost follows her, and so that I just do what he does. You know, he has that kind of effect on me. But it's a great way to see how it's done. You know who I actually am learning how to use Facebook from? I'm going to mess up his name. George Takei from Star Trek. Did I say his last name right? I apologize to him if I messed that up. Takei. He is a brilliant poster. He's very humorous, he's very light, and so just watching him post things and the way that he gets his followers to respond, I'm just learning how to use Facebook just by watching him. So that really works for me. So yeah, pick a few that are using it often and that have a lot of followers because obviously they're doing something right, and that's what we want to do. Question here.
Chris, I got a question for you. Where did the Red Cross get their numbers? It seems to me that, having worked in the media, TV news is dying. More people, I understand the young people are getting their news from their smartphones or looking at Facebook. Where did the Red Cross come up? I think it was, if I saw it right, 18%. They're getting it from the internet. I think that's a little low. I'm just kind of curious about that.
If I understand, they only polled about, I want to say 1,200 people is what comes to mind. And they divvied it up between people that they called and people that were online. So they're trying to break it up and see, and so they have a lot of sub-metrics that talk about here's what the general population said versus what the online population said, and so they break it up like that. But that's everything that I presented today was from the general population. Yes, sir. Oh, wait, one second. Here comes a microphone.
Are you using any consolidation tools across social media so you have a single point of entry, a portal?
I've tried several different kind of consolidation tools, and I'm never really satisfied with one because what seems to happen is the tool does a lot of work to work with Twitter and Facebook and all these other tools, and then all those applications change, breaking everything, and then they got to play catch up, and so they're usually behind. I tend to give up, and I've got my Twitter app, and I have my Facebook app, and I'll jump between them. WordPress actually is a really good tool. For those of you who don't, WordPress is actually a blogging tool, and it has a lot of built-in features to allow you, so when you do a blog post, it will just automatically send it to Twitter and send it to any place else that you happen to care about and want to communicate that message. So there are some good consolidation tools, but they do struggle with having to keep up with changes to the various applications.
One more? Perhaps?
Time for one more question. Lady here in the middle. Pass that mic down. Give a shout out if you want to.
Hi, we're from a public agency, and we have a Twitter account. We have lots of things going on. Sometimes I want to tweet promotions or fast facts. Sometimes we need to tweet service alerts and emergency response kind of things. I've seen some people doing 2 different types of Twitter feeds. Is that just confusing the issue, or is that a good way to go?
I was looking at I almost put it on the slide deck and I didn't. There's an organization, I think it's the LA Sheriff's Department. Don't hold me to that, I can't remember exactly, but I believe it was the LA Sheriff's Department. And I looked at their Twitter feed just to see what they were doing, and it was testing. They just test. They don't really send out any information. They just kind of test it to be sure, like the emergency broadcast system, that their processes are working, which is good. But it's not like I really want to follow someone who's just tweeting testing all the time, right? So I think that it is good to be able to, your audiences in social media tend to be focused. The reason an audience goes to the police department to follow their tweets is different than why they might go to, say, SDG&E to follow those tweets. There can be, the content for those can vary, right? Some people go to various things. They want to learn, in our case, how to save energy. Might be one reason. But during emergency times, they're not interested in how to save energy. They're interested in how to get their energy back, right? So that would be a different reason why they would follow those tweets. And it is good. I think that's why, from a Twitter perspective, that hashtag is very valuable. Because the hashtag allows you to divvy those tweets up, where you may not care about all the things that we're talking about, but you may care about these tweets related to this issue. And you saw that actually there's a police officer, I think it was in Ontario, that is their social media officer. And he was actually, in Canada, they have something called We Day. So he was tweeting about We Day. It's this really big event, getting youth energized, and so they were tweeting about that. Then they had a shots fired call at a local high school, and he changed it to CT Gun because that was the Twitter tag that he picked for that. And so all those tweets were there from the We Day thing, which was good, a very good public outreach stuff, but then they immediately switched over to this incident. And interestingly enough, the beauty of what he did is he actually took all of that information, all of those people who had been following him about the We Day thing, and tweeted to them, hey, an incident just happened at this high school, you guys might want to check it out. And all of those people from the We Day, following the We Day conversations, then started following the CT Gun conversation. That was very fascinating, and I think it worked very well for them. So I think as long as you're following a train of thought and during your tweeting, I think it's valuable. So I hear that that's all the time that we've got left. I want to thank you guys all very much for letting me present. I'll be surprised if Bruce let me come back.